Lord Asriel said, "Marissa, wake up. We're about to land." A blustery dawn was breaking over the basalt fortress as the Intention craft flew in from the south. Mrs. Coulter, sore and heartsick, opened her eyes. She had not been asleep. She could see the angel Zephaniah gliding above the landing ground, and then rising and wheeling up to the tower as the craft made for the ramparts. As soon as the craft had landed, Lord Asriel leapt out and ran to join King Ogunwe on the western watchtower, ignoring Mrs. Coulter entirely. The technicians who came at once to attend to the flying machine took no notice of her either. No one questioned her about the loss of the aircraft she'd stolen. It was as if she'd become invisible. She made her way sadly up to the room in the adamant tower, where the orderly offered to bring her some food and coffee. "Whatever you have," she said, "and thank you. Oh, by the way," she went on as the man turned to go, "Lord Asriel's alethiometrist, Mr. Basilides?" "Yes." "Is he free to come here for a moment?" "He's working with his books at the moment, ma'am. I'll ask him to step up here when he can." She washed and changed into the one clean shirt she had left. The cold wind that shook the windows and the grey morning light made her shiver. She put some more coals on the iron stove, hoping it would stop her trembling, but the cold was in her bones, not just her flesh. 10 minutes later there was a knock on the door. The pale, dark-eyed alethiometrist, with his nightingale daemon on his shoulder, came in and bowed slightly. A moment later the orderly arrived with a tray of bread, cheese and coffee, and Mrs. Coulter said, "Thank you for coming, Mr. Basilides. May I offer you some refreshment?" "I will take some coffee, thank you. Please tell me," she said as soon as she'd poured the drink, "because I'm sure you've been following what's happened. Is my daughter alive?" He hesitated. The golden monkey clutched her arm. "She is alive," said Basilides carefully, "but also—" "Yes? Oh, please, what do you mean?" "She is in the world of the dead." For some time I could not interpret what the instrument was telling me. It seemed impossible. But there is no doubt. She and the boy have gone into the world of the dead, and they have opened a way for the ghosts to come out. As soon as the dead reach the open, they dissolve as their daemons did, and it seems that this is the most sweet and desirable end for them. And the alethiometer tells me that the girl did this because she overheard a prophecy that there would come an end to death, and she thought that this was a task for her to accomplish. As a result, there is now a way out of the world of the dead. And will she come out alive? But no, I know you can't predict. Is she? How is she? Has she? She is suffering. She is in pain. She is afraid. But she has the companionship of the boy, and of the 2 Gillespieans' spies, and they are still all together. And the bomb? The bomb did not hurt her. Mrs. Coulter felt suddenly exhausted. She wanted nothing more than to lie down and sleep for months, for years. Outside, the flag ropes snapped and clattered in the wind, and the rooks cawed as they wheeled around the ramparts. "Thank you, sir," she said, turning back to the reader. "I'm very grateful. Please would you let me know if you discover anything more about her, or where she is, or what she's doing." The man bowed and left. Mrs. Coulter went to lie down on the camp bed, but try as she would, she couldn't keep her eyes closed. "What do you make of that, King?" said Lord Asriel. He was looking through the watchtower telescope at something in the western sky. It had the appearance of a mountain hanging in the sky a hand's breadth above the horizon, and covered in cloud. It was a very long way off, so far, in fact, that it was no bigger than a thumbnail held out at arm's length. But it had not been there for long, and it hung there absolutely still. The telescope brought it closer, but there was no more detail. Cloud still looks like cloud, however much it's magnified. "The clouded mountain," said Ogunwe, "or what do they call it? The chariot, with the regent at the reins. He's concealed himself well, this Metatron. They speak of him in the apocryphal scriptures. He was a man once, a man called Enoch, the son of Jared, 6 generations away from Adam. And now he rules the kingdom. And he's intending to do more than that, if that angel they found by the sulphur lake was correct, the one who entered the clouded mountain to spy. If he wins this battle, he intends to intervene directly in human life. Imagine that, Ogunwe, a permanent inquisition, worse than anything the consistorial court of discipline could dream up, staffed by spies and traitors in every world, and directed personally by the intelligence. That's keeping that mountain aloft, ... The old authority at least had the grace to withdraw. The dirty work of burning heretics and hanging witches was left to his priests. This new one will be far, far worse. Well, he's begun by invading the Republic, said Ogunwe. Look, is that smoke? A drift of grey was leaving the clouded mountain, a slowly spreading smudge against the blue sky. But it couldn't have been smoke, it was drifting against the wind that tore at the clouds. The king put his field glasses to his eyes and saw what it was. Angels, he said. Lord Asriel came away from the telescope and stood up, hand shading his eyes. In hundreds, and then thousands, and tens of thousands, until half that part of the sky was darkened, the minute figures flew and kept on coming. Lord Asriel had seen the billion-strong flocks of blue starlings that wheeled at sunset around the palace of the Emperor Kang Po, but he had never seen so vast a multitude in all his life. The flying beings gathered themselves, and then streamed away slowly, to the north and the south. Ah, and what's that? Said Lord Asriel, pointing. That's not the wind. The cloud was swirling on the southern flank of the mountain, and long tattered banners of vapour streamed out in the powerful winds. But Lord Asriel was right. The movement was coming from within, not from the air outside. The cloud roiled and tumbled, and then it parted for a second. There was more than a mountain there, but they only saw it for a moment, and then the cloud swirled back, as if drawn across by an unseen hand, to conceal it again. King Ogunwe put down his field glasses. That's not a mountain, he said. I saw gun emplacements. So did I. A whole complexity of things. Can he see out through the cloud, I wonder? In some worlds they have machines to do that. But as for his army, if those angels are all they've got— The king gave a brief exclamation, half of astonishment, half of despair. Lord Asriel turned and gripped his arm with fingers that all but bruised him to the bone. They haven't got this, he said, and shook Ogunwe's arm violently. They haven't got flesh. He laid his hand against his friend's rough cheek. Few as we are, he went on, and short-lived as we are, and weak-sighted as we are. In comparison with them, we're still stronger. They envy us, Ogunwe. That's what fuels their hatred, I'm sure of it. They long to have our precious bodies, so solid and powerful, so well adapted to the good earth. And if we drive at them with force and determination, we can sweep aside those infinite numbers as you can sweep your hand through mist. They have no more power than that. Asriel, they have allies from 1,000 worlds, living beings like us. We shall win. And suppose he sent those angels to look for your daughter. My daughter, cried Lord Asriel, exulting. Isn't it something to bring a child like that into the world? You'd think it was enough to go alone to the king of the armoured bears and trick his kingdom out of his paws, but to go down into the world of the dead and calmly let them all out. And that boy, I want to meet that boy. I want to shake his hand. Did we know what we were taking on when we started this rebellion? No. But did he know? The authority and his regent, this Metatron, did they know what they were taking on when my daughter got involved? Lord Asriel, said the king, do you understand her importance for the future? Frankly, no. That's why I want to see Basilides. Where did he go? To the Lady Coulter, but the man is worn out. He can do no more until he's rested. He should have rested before. Send for him, would you? Oh, one more thing. Please ask Madame Oxentiel to come to the tower as soon as it's convenient. I must give her my condolences. Madame Oxentiel had been the Gallivespian's second-in-command. Now she would have to take over Lord Roke's responsibilities. King Ogunwe bowed and left his commander scanning the grey horizon. All through that day the army assembled. Angels of Lord Asriel's force flew high over the clouded mountain, looking for an opening, but without success. Nothing changed. No more angels flew out or inward. The high winds tore at the clouds, and the clouds endlessly renewed themselves, not parting even for a second. The sun crossed the cold blue sky and then moved down to the southwest, gilding the clouds and tinting the vapour around the mountain every shade of cream and scarlet, of apricot and orange. When the sun sank, the clouds glowed faintly from within. Warriors were now in place from every world where Lord Asriel's rebellion had supporters. Mechanics and artificers were fueling aircraft, loading weapons, and calibrating sights and measures. As the darkness came, some welcome reinforcements arrived. Padding silently over the cold ground from the north, separately, singly, came a number of armoured heers, a large number, and among them was their king. Not long afterward there arrived the first of several witch clans, the sound of the air through their pine branches whispering in the dark sky for a long time. Along the plain to the south of the fortress glimmered thousands of lights. marking the camps of those who had arrived from far off. Farther away, in all four corners of the compass, flights of spy angels cruised tirelessly, keeping watch. At midnight in the Adamant Tower, Lord Asriel sat in discussion with King Ogunwe, the angel Saphania, Madame Oxontiel the Galevspian, and Tukros Basilides. The alethiometrist had just finished speaking, and Lord Asriel stood up, crossed to the window, and looked out at the distant glow of the clouded mountain, hanging in the western sky. The others were silent. They had just heard something that had made Lord Asriel turn pale and tremble, and none of them quite knew how to respond. Finally Lord Asriel spoke. "Mr. Basilides," he said, "you must be very fatigued. I am grateful for all your efforts. Please take some wine with us." "Thank you, my lord," said the reader. His hands were shaking. King Ogunwe poured the golden tokay and handed him the glass. "What will this mean, Lord Asriel?" said the clear voice of Madame Oxontiel. Lord Asriel came back to the table. "Well," he said, "it will mean that when we join battle, we shall have a new objective. My daughter and this boy have become separated from their daemons somehow, and managed to survive, and their daemons are somewhere in this world. Correct me if I'm summarizing wrongly, Mr. Basilides. Their daemons are in this world, and Metatron is intent on capturing them. If he captures their daemons, the children will have to follow, and if he can control those two children, the future is his forever. Our task is clear. We have to find the daemons before he does, and keep them safe till the girl and the boy rejoin them." The Gallivespian leader said, "What form do they have, these two lost daemons?" "They are not yet fixed, madame," said Tukros Basilides. "They might be any shape. So," said Lord Asriel, "to sum it up, all of us, our republic, the future of every conscious being, we all depend on my daughter's remaining alive, and on keeping her daemon and the boys out of the hands of Metatron." "That is so—" Lord Asriel sighed, almost with satisfaction. It was as if he'd come to the end of a long and complex calculation and reached an answer that made quite unexpected sense. "Very well," he said, spreading his hands wide on the table. "Then this is what we shall do when the battle begins. King Ogunwe, you will assume command of all the armies defending the fortress. Madame Oxontiel, you are to send your people out at once to search in every direction for the girl and the boy, and the two daemons. When you find them, guard them with your lives until they come together again. At that point, I understand, the boy will be able to help them escape to another world. And safety." The lady nodded. Her stiff grey hair caught the lamplight, glinting like stainless steel, and the blue hawk she had inherited from Lord Roke spread his wings briefly on the bracket by the door. "Now, Saphania," said Lord Asriel, "what do you know of this Metatron? He was once a man. Does he still have the physical strength of a human being?" "He came to prominence long after I was exiled," the angel said. "I have never seen him, up close, but he would not have been able to dominate the kingdom unless he was very strong indeed, strong in every way. Most angels would avoid fighting hand to hand. Metatron would relish the combat and win." Ogunwe could tell that Lord Asriel had been struck by an idea. His attention suddenly withdrew, his eyes lost focus for an instant, and then snapped back to the moment with an extra charge of intensity. "I see," he said. "Finally, Saphania, Mr. Basilides tells us that their bomb not only opened an abyss below the worlds, but also fractured the structure of things so profoundly that there are fissures and cracks everywhere. Somewhere nearby there must be a way down to the edge of that abyss. I want you to look for it." "What are you going to do?" said King Ogunwe harshly. "I'm going to destroy Metatron, but my part is nearly over. It's my daughter who has to live, and it's our task to keep all the forces of the kingdom away from her so that she has a chance to find her way to a safer world. She and that boy, and their daemons." "And what about Mrs. Coulter?" said the king. Lord Asriel passed a hand over his forehead. "I would not have her troubled," he said. "Leave her alone and protect her if you can. Although ... well, maybe I'm doing her an injustice. Whatever else she's done, she's never failed to surprise me. But we all know what we must do, and why we must do it. We have to protect Lyra until she has found her daemon and escaped. Our republic might have come into being for the sole purpose of helping her do that. Let us do it as well as we can." Mrs. Coulter lay in Lord Asriel's bed next door. Hearing voices in the other room, she stirred, for she wasn't deeply asleep. She came out of her troubled slumber uneasy and heavy with longing. Her daemon sat up beside her, but she didn't want to move closer to the door. It was simply the sound of Lord Asriel's voice she wanted to hear, rather than any particular words. She thought they were both doomed. She thought they were all doomed. Finally she heard the door closing in the other room, and roused herself to stand up. "Asriel," she said, going through into the warm naphtha light. His daemon growled softly. The golden monkey dropped his head low to propitiate her. Lord Asriel was rolling up a large map, and did not turn. "Asriel, what will happen to us all?" she said, taking a chair. He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes. His face was ravaged with fatigue. He sat down and rested an elbow on the table. Their daemons were very still, the monkey crouching on the chair back, the snow leopard sitting upright and alert at Lord Asriel's side, watching Mrs. Coulter unblinkingly. "You didn't hear?" he said. "I heard a little. I couldn't sleep, but I wasn't listening." "Where is Lyra now? Does anyone know?" No. He still hadn't answered her first question, and he wasn't going to, and she knew it. "We should have married," she said, "and brought her up ourselves." It was such an unexpected remark that he blinked. His daemon uttered the softest possible growl at the back of her throat, and settled down with her paws outstretched in the manner of the Sphinx. He said nothing. "I can't bear the thought of oblivion, Asriel," she continued. "Sooner anything than that. I used to think pain would be worse, to be tortured forever. I thought that must be worse, ... But as long as you were conscious, it would be better, wouldn't it? Better than feeling nothing, just going into the dark, everything going out forever and ever." His part was simply to listen. His eyes were locked on hers, and he was paying profound attention. There was no need to respond. She said, "The other day, when you spoke about her so bitterly, and about me, I thought you hated her. I could understand your hating me. I've never hated you, but I could understand. I could see why you might hate me. But I couldn't see why you hated Lyra." He turned his head away slowly, and then looked back. "I remember you said something strange, on Svalbard, on the mountaintop, just before you left our world," she went on. "You said, 'Come with me, and we'll destroy dust forever.' You remember saying that? But you didn't mean it. You meant the very opposite, didn't you? I see now. Why didn't you tell me what you were really doing? Why didn't you tell me you were really trying to preserve dust? You could have told me the truth. I wanted you to come and join me," he said, his voice hoarse and quiet. "And I thought you would prefer a lie." "Yes," she whispered, "that's what I thought." She couldn't sit still, but she didn't really have the strength to stand up. For a moment she felt faint. Her head swam, sounds receded, the room darkened, but almost at once her senses came back even more pitilessly than before, and nothing in the situation had changed. "Asriel," she murmured. The golden monkey put a tentative hand out to touch the paw of the snow leopard. The man watched without a word, and Stelmaria didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on Mrs. Coulter. "Oh, Asriel, what will happen to us?" Mrs. Coulter said again. "Is this the end of everything?" He said nothing. Moving like someone in a dream, she got to her feet, picked up the rucksack that lay in the corner of the room, and reached inside it. For her pistol, and what she would have done next, no one knew, because at that moment there came the sound of footsteps running up the stairs. Both man and woman, and both daemons, turned to look at the orderly who came in and said breathlessly, "Excuse me, my lord, the two daemons. They've been seen, not far from the eastern gate in the form of cats. The sentry tried to talk to them, bring them inside, but they wouldn't come near. It was only a minute or so ago." Lord Asriel sat up, transfigured. All the fatigue had been wiped off his face in a moment. He sprang to his feet and seized his greatcoat. Ignoring Mrs. Coulter, he flung the coat around his shoulders and said to the orderly, "Tell Madame Auxentiel at once. Put this order out. The daemons are not to be threatened or frightened or coerced in any way. Anyone seeing them should first—" Mrs. Coulter heard no more of what he was saying, because he was already halfway down the stairs. When his running footsteps had faded too, the only sounds were the gentle hiss of the naphtha lamp and the moan of the wild wind outside. Her eyes found the eyes of her daemon. The golden monkey's expression was as subtle and complex as it had ever been in all their 35 years of life. "Very well," she said. "I can't see any other way. I think we'll—" He knew at once what she meant. He leapt to her breast, and they embraced. Then she found her fur-lined coat, and they very quietly left the chamber and made their way down the dark stairs.